We studied the making of America. We studied the miracle that the foundation of America was in the first place. We studied freedom. We studied liberty. We studied the Revolutionary War. We did not study police tactics, police safety, or the Miranda decision. It was the best law enforcement training I've ever had in my life. And while I was there, I was converted. And I hate to use a religious word, but that's what it was. And I found out that day that the Spirit of God is the Spirit of freedom. And that the miracle of the making of America was by His hand. And that if we're going to save America, we better remember who started America in the first place. Okay? Now, at one point, Dr. Skousen handed me his book titled The Making of America. Big, thick book. Probably the thickest book I've ever written. You can see I don't like big books. Okay? They're easy to read and nobody has an excuse not to read it. So, also I have this book on CD. If you would like to listen to it on the way home, I'm reading the book. So, depending if you like to read better or you like to hear the book more than read the book. But he handed me his book and he said, I want you to promise me that you'll teach these things to your children. I have. And now I teach them all across the country. And 2 weeks ago, I taught this class, a 4-hour training class, the Constitution for Peace Officers, to 25 sheriffs in the panhandle of Texas. I'm trying to do that all across the country. Now, a week from today, I'll be in Albany, New York, doing the same thing on the state capitol there. And then the next week after that, I go to Valley Forge. And the next week after that, I go to Florida. And after that, I don't know, but I have every weekend full between now and November. And I love this because you know what? People are getting it. The Tea Party movement is alive and well. And I saw somebody's T-shirt a little while ago. It said, that was really funny. Who had that T-shirt on? Save some tar and feather for me or something, you know. That was a good shirt. I love that. And this is a movement that is Tea Party in nature because we're not going to take what the federal government's dishing out anymore. And if you want to be protected in your county, then you must, absolutely must, elect someone as sheriff who knows and understands the Constitution. You want a constitutional sheriff. Okay? Can any of you think of anything more important that your sheriff can do for you than to protect your freedom and to protect your rights, to protect your land, protect your constitutional freedoms? What? Go after drug runners? Oh, so you have drug-free slavery. Great. And you think that doing the same thing with our drug problem is going to create a different result? We've been fighting the drug war for 40 years, spending $90 billion a year. What is it that you don't get? We're not going to stop it. Prohibition does not work unless you're trying to create a huge black market, because that's all we've done. Now, let's go on. So, I'm now converted to the Constitution. I got a reputation as being that constitutional cop, and nevertheless, I still got promoted. I made corporal, then I made sergeant, then I made front desk sergeant, then patrol sergeant, and then detective sergeant. And everything's going great in our lives. And you know what happens when things are going great in your life. The in-laws call. My wife's parents call, and they said, we want you to move home to Arizona and run for sheriff. And I said, you're crazy. And this is the first time in our married lives that my wife agreed. They were crazy. We're not moving home. We like it here. We've got 11 years on. I can retire in 9 years. I'll move home when I retire from Provo PD, and then I'll run for sheriff. No, we got to have you now. We're going to have a corrupt sheriff. We got to have a constitutional sheriff. We got to have you. You got to move home. I said, well, it's not going to happen. So then they had other people calling and lobbying me to run. And so finally I told my wife, I said, let's just make a list of all the pros and cons and list why we can't move home and run for sheriff. She goes, great, let's do it. She was all for it. We listed 23 reasons why we could not move home and run for sheriff, and only 2 reasons why we could. And that was to be closer to family, her parents and my parents. We wanted our kids to know their grandparents better. So we sent that down to them. And 3 weeks later, we move home and run for sheriff. And folks, that is a true story. And we picked up and left Utah, walked into town, and I remember I'd never been a cop in Arizona, had never been a law enforcement in my county, and hadn't even lived there for 11 years. Can we do something like that here? Elect somebody who believes in the Constitution and believes in freedom and believes in America. There's nothing you could do that's more important. So, the people of Graham County elected me. I ran on a constitutional platform. In 1992, I was reelected. Then somebody in Washington, D.C. started lying and spreading a bunch of lies about the Brady Bill. I hope this doesn't shock you, but his name was Bill Clinton. And he said that the Brady Bill was going to be the best thing ever for our country, that it was going to protect your children, that parents, you wouldn't even have to worry about your kids playing off at night, that you wouldn't have to worry about them being attacked or kidnapped, or our cops wouldn't, this is the one I really liked, our cops wouldn't even need to wear guns. Because the Brady Bill was going to make America so safe, our cops would not even need to wear guns. I'm going, what is going on here? What is this guy spewing? But I wasn't going to sue over that, because he never told us the truth. And on January 21st, 1994, 3 agents of the federal government bring us this document at a Sheriff's Association meeting in Phoenix. It says Department of the Treasury. Did you know the BATF works for the Department of the Treasury? Boy, that's a good one. Now, there's only 15 counties in Arizona, and there's only 12 sheriffs at this meeting, but it took 3 federal agents to hand us this document. 3 of them. That's government work for you, though, isn't it? And after we started reading this document, you never heard so much cussing in your life. Because this thing said that we had to, the sheriffs. It called us the Cleos. What's a Cleo? Chief Law Enforcement Officer. Don't you love it when they finally get something right? Remember, they brought this document to the Cleos, to all the sheriffs in Arizona. Did they take it to the governor's office or to the highway patrol? Did they take it to the chief of police in Phoenix? No, the sheriffs. So we love that documentation. But we did not love this law. And this was the first time in United States history that the federal government, oh goody, more water. Thank you. I was hoping she brought a fan. Okay. This is going to work because the sun's going down. Now, this is the first time in United States history that the federal government gave a mandate to the states, but bypassed the legislature and went right to the state official, the county official, and said, you will conduct background checks on all the people in your county who wish to purchase a handgun. And before you allow them to have a handgun, you have to do a criminal background check on them. And you will pay for all of this, and you will take all the heat for this, and if you don't do it, we might just arrest you. True story, folks. The threat of arrest is right in this book. Let's read it real quick.